Just what I missed you.
All right, we're live here. It's Carmen.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Here, let's make sure this is on. Testing. Oh, there we go. There we go. Oh. See it right now. Well, good evening. We want to welcome you to our Community Block Grant, Community Development Block Grant Public Input Meeting for our fiscal year 2023. So we want to welcome you. And first I want to say welcome to our mayor, Betty Rich, and our commissioner, Sarah Maliga, who is here also being part of the process and very interested in your input in this process. And so the purpose of this meeting is that we are required to have a public input session in our request to the county, Palm Beach County, to seek funds from the Community Block Grant process. And so we are able to provide your input in trying to select eligible projects for these grants. And so we will be hearing from our staff in a presentation on the details, what projects are eligible, how we are required to use those funds for specific projects and for particular target areas based on criteria of certain census tracts. And so we are so pleased that you're here. We do have listeners on via Zoom, and so we welcome you to this meeting to get your ideas and input. I know every year we present projects to the public as well, because as you know, the city is not short of projects that we need to accomplish in order to make Lake Worth Beach the best place to be, right?
Yes.
So we have projects that we will present to you that are on our capital improvement program list that we want your input on. Some of these have been presented before. Some have been targeted and funds used for phase one. And so we've had progress from those particular projects, but we also may present that project to you to continue those efforts to complete that particular renovation project. So you're going to be presented some projects to evaluate and give us your input. And we also have presented, we want your input on projects as well, because you as the community, you're out there every day. You know what's happening in your neighborhood. You know the type of issues that you're facing. And so we would like to get your thoughts on what you feel are the needs in your community that would be benefited by these funds. And like I said, these funds are specific to certain projects, types of projects in certain areas. And you'll hear more about that so that you'll get an idea of what criteria and what parameters we're working under, and also and how much we have to use in order to achieve those particular projects. So with that, I'll turn the mic over to Mr. Jerry Kelly, who will give you an overview of the Community Block Grant process, the requirements. He will go over the specific target areas that these funds can be used, the particular type of projects that we can use the projects for, and then answer any questions that you may have. So with that.
But before we do that, I would like to reciprocate and introduce Ms. Carmen Davis, who is our new wonderful city manager. And I want us all to welcome her. It's a breath of fresh air, and I want to thank her.
Now you may proceed. Thank you, Mayor. And I apologize. I guess I should have introduced myself, but I'm so ready to hear from you that I got very eager. Thank you. And I am so honored to be part of Lake Worth Beach and the city manager and being part of this wonderful community. So I am honored and privileged and excited to work with you all during this time. So, Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Carmen. The Community Development Block Grant Program, better known as CDBG, resulted from the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974.
Can you speak into the
Yeah, you can-
loudspeaker?
Jerry, let's make sure.
It's supposed to go through the laptop. Ready to go. I'll start anew.
There you go.
The Community Development Block Grant Program.
There we go.
Panel 3, please, Keith.
Take 3.
Thank you. The Community Development Block Grant Program, better known as CDBG, resulted from the Housing and Community Act of 1974, and it was enacted in 1975. The purpose of the CDBG program is to provide communities with the resources to address a wide range of unique community development needs. Accordingly, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, better known as HUD, administers CDBG and awards grants based on formula allocations to entitlement communities to carry out a wide range of community development activities directed toward revitalizing neighborhoods, economic development, and providing improved community facilities and services. Entitlement communities include states, urban counties, which are those with a population greater than 200,000, and municipalities with a population of 50,000 or more. Palm Beach County is an eligible entitlement urban county for the receipt of CDBG funding. The Palm Beach County entitlement jurisdiction serves unincorporated areas and non-entitlement communities. Those are those with populations under the 50,000 persons threshold. This includes the city of Lake Worth Beach. The city of Lake Worth Beach then has entered into an interlocal cooperation agreement with Palm Beach County for participation in its urban county program, which will run through September 30th, 2024. By this action, the city of Lake Worth Beach is eligible for receipt of its portion of the formula allocation of CDBG funds the county receives. In accordance with the interlocal cooperation agreement, the city must use its allocation of CDBG funds for certain eligible activities pursuant to CDBG regulations. Eligible uses for the county's recipients, of which the city is one, include the following. The first is eligible infrastructure and public facility improvements that include roadway and sidewalk improvements, park and recreational facilities improvements, community centers, and public facilities improvements. The second eligible activity is code enforcement within an existing CDBG target area. It should be noted that the county's CDBG program does not permit to use these funds to conduct public services and planning and administration activities that would otherwise be eligible under the CDBG program. The county issues an RFP for nonprofits to participate in public services, and it uses the planning and admin money to operate the CDBG program countywide. In addition, the county conducts its own countywide housing, rehab, and economic development programs that utilize CDBG funds and other funding. Next, oh, he's already there. Eligible activities must serve the national objective of the CDBG program of benefiting low and moderate income persons pursuant to the Code of Federal Regulations applicable to CDBG. There is a presumed benefit for low and moderate income persons for those eligible activities conducted in the CDBG target area. Our target area has a low mod population of approximately 79%. The estimated fiscal year 2022-2023 CDBG funds that we'll receive from the county is $274,506. This funding is subject to availability from HUD and approval of the Board of County Commissioners. And it should be noted that the city can submit only one application for the total amount. Now I'd like to turn, this is our target area. It's approximately 2 square miles in area, and its northern boundary is 10th Avenue North. On the west, it incorporates the entire Park of Commerce. As you move south, it goes along I-95 until it reaches the municipal limits with the town of Lantana, which it runs along the southern boundary as well. On the east, it's bounded by North and South Dixie highways. And now I'd like to turn it over to our Assistant Director of Public Services, Felipe Lavasso, who'll go over the staff recommended projects for the use of CDBG.
Excuse me, Jerry, when you said submit one application, so that's one application for one project, not one application for multiple projects?
One application for one project.
Thank you. One application.
Thank you, Jerry. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mr. Malika, City Manager, Assistant City Manager, and the public. Again, for the record, Felipe Lafaso, Assistant Director for Public Works. Pleased to be here tonight. So we have a few projects that over the years have become quite a bit of maintenance for maintenance staff, and definitely could benefit from the CDBG funding. The first one is actually a phase 2 for the existing Memorial Park phase 1, the project that is currently in design, and we're utilizing CDBG funding right now to do, and that's purely to replace the pavilion roof. The structure itself is okay. The roof needs to be replaced. So that's phase 1, and that'll pretty much eat up most of that allocation that we received for fiscal year 22. So the phase 2 project basically would pick up where this phase 1 left off, and we would do associated improvements to the bathrooms, to the existing concession area. We would remove and replace the fencing around the whole common area, install new sodding, replace the benches and tables, and also resurface the existing parking lot, which is in need of upgrade as well. So that project is at an estimated meets the budget of the CDBG allocation for fiscal year 23. So that is the first proposed project. Next slide. Just a couple of pictures here. The second proposed project is over the course of the last roughly 10 years, and one of the goals of the prior commission was to take these unimproved right-of-ways throughout the city, basically dirt roads, and convert them to a useful purpose, whether that's a roadway, whether that's a greenway. So some of you may have seen those throughout the community, various greenways and roadways that we've improved, meandering sidewalks, landscaping, things of that sort. So just to beautify and kind of update and modernize these unimproved areas. There are still a few of those left over that we have not been able to reconstruct. 8th Avenue South from South A Street to South G Street is one of them. So this project, because there is a greenway next to it on 9th Avenue South, and on 7th Avenue South, we've also actually already improved that unimproved right of way to kind of a quasi greenway / roadway project. So those have already both been improved. We're proposing 8th Avenue South as a roadway improvement project. So basically we construct a new roadway, new curbing, ADA accessibility, sidewalks, swales, some landscape green areas for beautification, new striping, signage, and also incorporate traffic calming. That carries a little bit heavier of a cost. So there would be grant funds utilized, and then also an unfunded portion, which you see of about $250,000, which would go forth in front of the commission for consideration or for approval if that project was selected. Yes, ma'am.
Could we use part of the money that Jamie's getting for the ADA completion towards this? Because I know we're doing like 400 and some ADA sidewalks.
Yeah, so that's a good
Is
question.
this going to overlay?
That will slightly overlay. So that project is strictly purely for the ramp only.
Right.
Doesn't cover any sidewalks that connect the ramps. That is
So it
literally
would
just
help
a
with
corner.
little bit of the budget.
That would help with probably $10,000 of the budget. Yeah,
I said a little.
not a whole lot. Yeah, not a whole lot.
Every
It's
time.
something. It's something, and probably a lot of those are in that because that was citywide, that
Right.
ADA project that Mr. Brown put together. So that would probably encompasses some of these street corners.
Okay.
Yeah, already.
Thank you.
Yep, good question. So, yeah, that's that project. And you see some pictures. Next slide. That house exists as of right now, just to see it's a dirt road with bollards and kind of areas that are susceptible to crime and a lot of illegal dumping. Next slide. Here is 7th Avenue South. So it's an example of what 8th Avenue could look like afterwards. A one-way street westbound, curbing, sidewalks, nice trees, So it's a nicer streetscape than what exists currently. Next slide. The third project is one that is right here in the downtown. It is between North A Street to basically to City Hall, and from the traffic circle to City Hall. And this one is all the center blocks. So in between Lake and Lucerne, each of those center blocks on B, C, D, E, F, G, and H, there are various issues with ADA accessibility. So currently, if you were to next time you drive by or take a look, you'll see there's a lot of sidewalk gaps. There's a lot of issues with the slopes of the sidewalk not meeting ADA. So there's some things that we need to do in the very near term to make that area much more walkable, safe for the residents, in particular as it is in the heart of downtown. So that project would install new curbing and ADA accessible sidewalks. We'd mill and resurface those roadways in between Lake and Lucerne, new striping and signage. We look at various traffic calming measures on each of those blocks, kind of on a case-by-case basis. And there's also some stormwater adjustments for catch basins and inlets that we have to adjust. So similar, we'd utilize the grant funds to maximize those. And then the unfunded portion of about $50,000, we look towards getting that reviewed and approved by the city commission as part of the CIP, the capital improvement process.
I have a question in regards to those properties. There are a lot of investors that own lots around those exact blocks right now that are going to be developed in the near future with townhomes.
Yep.
Is there a way that obviously we could have those investors put skin in the game to help beautify those blocks where those existing lots
Absolutely.
are, if they're sitting on these corners, because those blocks are very short.
Yeah.
If I got somebody putting 42 townhomes and they're gaining big by us for doing this, isn't there a way that we could ask the investor to come in instead of getting CDBG funds to do this project?
We do, and that's a great point. So actually currently on those new projects, as part of our code, we do require developers to improve those areas.
Okay.
So whether that's sidewalk or that's various components of the right of way, we do require them to do that. And they have been doing it on various projects. So in that case, exactly, we would make them and require them as part of the development process to improve those right of ways. Now they're only responsible for their half, right? So it's their side of the road of the 40-foot right of way, that 20-foot of road and the sidewalk, they'd be responsible for.
Okay.
So in that instance, say we're improving half of B Street, the city would look to improve the
The other half.
other half of B Street. Exactly, unless
So
something
it could skew
simultaneously.
those numbers as well.
Correct.
With the investment.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And this, I mean, this includes store, much more than just making, surfacing the roads, it's storm, the underneath it's the storm.
That's correct.
As
Oh,
well.
we have a lot of
Yes, ma'am.
flooding. Okay.
Correct.
Right, and keep in mind, the CDBG annual allocation has an expenditure cycle that expires in 12 months.
Yeah.
Right, Jerry, so
Correct.
hedging future potential development, the timing of when that happens may not line up with the cycle that we're within to expend those dollars.
No, I'm just asking because if we know we have a developer who's gonna be on BDE Street, one developer who's gonna be doing townhomes, and we know that he's gonna be doing a certain percentage, then maybe we could just work that into our capital budget without considering CDBG funds for that, is what I'm thinking.
Correct.
Sorry so much.
It's good. It's good. The details.
Yes.
Next,
That's in the detail.
yeah, next slide. So that's a picture, a great example of what it looks like right now. Yeah. You're exactly what that is.
Yep.
And you can see on the left-hand side of the picture, there is no sidewalk.
That's correct.
It's totally a gap. So that is it's an issue. Next slide. Those are circles of where those blocks are in the next one. Yeah.
I know that well.
Yep. Next slide. The last project we have for recommendation from review is number 4 is the Osborne Center renovation project. So this is the Osborne Community Center. If you recall, we just did utilize CDBG funds in fiscal year 2021 to improve the Howard Park, which is basically encompasses around the Osborne Community Center. So that project went off beautifully. It's a tremendous improvement to that park. Now we turn our focus to the community center. The center as it exists structurally, it's a good building. We're doing some miscellaneous improvements from a maintenance standpoint. However, it could be in need of a major renovation and upgrade to the facility, both exterior and interior. So we're proposing demolition of flooring, baseboard, ceiling, deteriorated fixtures, components, basically upgrade all the mechanical, the plumbing, electrical fixtures, upgrades, panels, refrigerators, things of that nature. doors, hardware, trim ceiling floors will all be new. That main entry foyer, we modernized that to make it in current times and just kind of a nice gathering place, welcome area. Paint the interior and exterior, and we also incorporate exterior facade improvements, some architectural features to kind of bring that building to the modern day, and some landscape improvements to the front of that facility. You know, given the current market, it's difficult really to pin a cost. Construction costs are escalating at a crazy rate, but with those improvements that we're proposing, we think the budget would be able to fit utilizing grant funds solely, not having to tap into any city municipal funds or any capital improvement funds.
I have one more question on this project is I don't see any security camera security. And that's something that we do need.
Yeah.
At that facility, I know we have Palm Beach Police Officer, PDSO has a, what do they call it, a substation,
So, yes.
there. But I would like to see that added to see what that would be in the budget
Sure.
personally. Because I believe that the community, you know, we have a lot of the seniors that are there.
Sure,
And sometimes staff does leave them and they come back and lock up. So I think having some kind of security released on the perimeter would be beneficial.
sure. We can definitely incorporate that, whether it's an operational, but you know, during our normal operating budget, I think we can incorporate that.
Thank you.
Now I have a question. I mean, the Osborne Center could use some fixing up and modernization. But are the HVAC, are things functioning? Is the plumbing working? Is the electric okay?
It is, so as part of this process, we basically did an inspection with staff and with outside consultants on the existing components of that property.
So it's working, it just could be.
It could be updated, yeah, absolutely.
Some of the mechanical engineering, it's just shelf life. A lot of
And it could be
stuff-
more efficient, we could put in a lot more efficient stuff, but
Correct.
obviously cost us less money in the long run for upkeep and electrical bills and things like that.
Correct.
I think there's what, 15 separate HVAC systems on the top of us.
There's probably 5 or 6 units on the top. It's inefficiently, it was built in the early 90s, I believe. So it's different time, different technologies.
I thought we were doing it for like a lightning experiment.
Do that too. Next slide. So there's a picture of the exterior. We did paint it probably 6 years ago or so. We painted the building, the exterior. So it does need more of a modern facelift to that facility. Yeah, next picture. And questions?
If I may really quick, Carmen, let me explain, for some of you that walked in right after we started.
Before you explain, let me ask a question, please.
Yes, ma'am.
How did you all come about with the 1, 2, 3, 4, the proposals? Did you, like, well, this project we think should be number 1. How did you come up with that?
Are they ranked? No, they're just.
they're not
ranked.
Oh,
They're not
okay.
ranked.
Oh,
It
okay.
could be A, B, and C.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I'm
All
gonna
right.
explain a little bit
Okay.
on how it will be decided upon,
Okay.
okay? So when you guys all signed in, if you came in, I think we got everybody got a pretend ticket, lottery ticket. Later, before we leave, I'm gonna ask you guys to come up and put your ticket and what project you would support, okay? And that information then is gonna be packaged as part of the agenda that will go to the commission. Ultimately, this comes as an agenda item to the commission to approve the project that gets submitted. So as Mr. LaFosse stated earlier, a lot of the projects that we have are, a lot of it's deferred maintenance and us trying to get ahead of things before things break or they're aged or whatnot. And a lot of the stuff you'll see in our 5-year capital project that mostly is unfunded. So we're looking for grants and different ways to fund those types of projects. And if you recall back in Jerry's presentation, when it comes specifically to the CDBG funds, because we're not an entitled city, because our population is under 50,000, we're a sub-grant recipient to the county. So the county takes the big bulk of the HUD money that the county gets and redistributes it in different programs that benefit the county at large. So our pot gets narrowed down extremely tight to very specific infrastructure. And that's why you'll notice not a lot of programmatic tools. There's some code enforcement activities we did one year, if you remember. So we have to be, not we have to be careful. Ideas are great. And some of those ideas that don't qualify for HUD doesn't mean that we won't share those with the commission or put those into the bucket of everything else we got going on, as things that we can look at to improve in the community. So before you end, don't walk off with your tickets. All right, in your way, it's kind of you get to cast the ballot for your best, your favorite project. But ignore the 1, 2, 3, and 4. It was just project 1, project 2, project 3, 4. All right.
Thank you. So we want to open up for questions.
I
Yes,
have a
sir.
question. Actually, it wasn't really a question, it was more a comment. My comment is frankly that we should deal with our safety issues first. I ran a construction site, the first thing we talk about every day is safety issues. We get lawsuits every so often coming in that, that we end up paying, and that's because of safety issues that are undealt with. So I would vote for the ADA, everything for the ADA be done before anything else. So we could redo a building, but we could still have somebody fall out on the sidewalk because the ADA stuff is not that. Just
Thank you
saying.
for your comment. Thank you. And you have your ticket?
I got my.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions?
If you could just give your names before you make a comment so that we know who we're talking to. Thanks.
Janet Serrano. Is there any indication from you, Mayor, or you, Commissioner Malega, as to what the city commission would do on these projects that you would have to fund over the block grant? Some of them use just the block grant monies, some of them require additional funding. Is there money in the city budget for that additional funding? Is
We'll
it better we stick with just the project that uses just the?
I'll give you my opinion. We don't have a big bucket of money. So if we're talking about a $500,000 project, and we can only get $275,000. I don't know where that other money is going to come from. Now, we do have, and I hate to say it, but at some point in the next couple of months, the commission and the staff is going to sit down with the public about the art. We have some ARPA money coming for some of these projects that can't be done with this, may be suitable for ARPA funding at some point. That's, so we don't have a lot of extra money.
And to answer your question, Janet, that's why, the project that we did last year, Memorial Park,
Right.
is unfunded. So if we did this project would be ticked off, 100% completed.
Done.
We have had Rotary, who was offered to pay for playground equipment, as well as an anonymous donor, I won't say his name, so I don't know if he wants to be known, who's offered to pay for more playground equipment that will go next to this pavilion. So that would say, okay, Howard Park's been redone, Memorial Park's not done. And we could actually make a plan off of these choices and say, okay, let's finish this one. Let's just say everybody voted. This is community led. And then next year we'll focus on this project and make, see if the community wants that to be a priority. But it's all about community input. That's why we're doing this.
And where is the Memorial Park?
Right at the corner of
6th
South.
Avenue and 8th Street.
Yeah. It's the big,
It's a big
where
park.
the soccer,
Oh, yeah.
kids play soccer there, they play football. But unfortunately, when the soccer kids are playing, the little kids have no place to play. So putting in playground equipment and having that covered by a donor is wonderful. Having a pavilion where the parents can sell their snacks and do their fundraising for the football and cheerleaders is great. And then, yes, sir.
I just have a question about the ADA project. Is your city obligated to provide ADA compliance regardless of grant funding? If it's something that we're obligated to do, whether it be, something from general revenue, do we need to rely on this kind of grant programs to bring the city to compliance with the ADA requirements?
Let you take that one, please.
I'm not an attorney, but let's
She is.
clarify that. We, with the American Disabilities Act, we are required in the public right of way and public facilities to provide ADA facilities.
So if we don't, we don't vote to allocate the ADA compliance, the city will have to do it anyway.
Correct.
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 With the cat, yeah, sorry not to cut you off, but we've developed, it's called ADA Transitions Plan, which is what's a part of the ADA Act that we have to do as every agency municipality has to do that. So as long as you're showing good effort and funding year over year in your budgets, which we are, obviously ADA, it can be overwhelming, the amount of detail and things. So it's a huge cost burden, and the federal government, as it trickles down, they understand that as long as you're making goals towards that, but every new project you do or any renovation has to now meet those ADA requirements. So we have to incorporate all those into every project that we do.
Felipe, can you touch on the grant that your department just got for that?
Sure.
That's right.
Yeah, So the director, my boss, Mr. Brown, Jamie Brown, spent a tremendous amount of time working with Florida Department of Transportation on a grant that the city is receiving for the process of doing the design of taking every ADA ramp that is either deficient or non-existing in the city currently. And the grant is going to pay for that, to have all those ADA ramps constructed. So we're actively seeking every single funding source we can. You're competing with every other agency the same, so it can be difficult, but he did it, and it's tough because we still have to put money out to design it. But nonetheless, we're gonna receive almost about $1 million to do that.
460.
That's
Local-
right, we just got
Location, yeah.
460 locations in the city, sidewalks and crosswalks.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Good question. Yes, sir.
For instance, at the corner of L and First, we've got a brand new concrete, a concrete electric pole, light pole, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of the sidewalk. I push a guy in a wheelchair down there every day.
Mhm.
We can't go on the sidewalk.
Could you go on the other side of the street?
Well, no, it's easier to ride right down the middle of the street actually, because the street.
But I'm affiliated with the corner that you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, it's on the one corner, there's the obstruction, but on the other corner, there isn't.
right,
So
that's
could you
true.
just go that way in the meantime?
Well, it's gonna cause you to have to cross the street, but I'm just saying, it's there.
We have many, we have lots and lots, the city's really well aware, I think, of the challenges that we have, the places that we have that need.
Right, so that money, that one spot there would eat up all of that. So, safety first.
Yeah, we definitely, as you heard, we definitely are seeking grants, and we have put together a transition plan to deal with those type of situations. So we'll be coming around to that area at some point,
So I have a question, Mr. Felipe, if let's just say Osborne Community Center gets voted on, will the community have input on the colors that are chosen for the exterior of the building and some of the design aspects? Could we bring that to the community for their input?
Absolutely. Yeah, so we Lauren Bennett, the Leisure Services Director, she's very involved.
Put that on.
But exactly, yeah, and I will, believe me, I will. No, so we're the guys that will build it, and we let her, and her team does a great job with actually engaging. So we
Okay.
actually, and to that credit, we engage the community to pick the colors of the basketball court
Perfect.
and the tennis court and the futsal court that we resurfaced as part of that project last year. So they made a really cool process out of doing that with the kids in the community, and it turned out fantastic. So a similar sort of process will be done for those sort of improvements if that project is chosen.
Could you put the project back up there for the Osborne?
Yeah, I didn't write that.
The community center?
Yeah. Could we
Number
see
4.
the- Number 4.
Panel
And,
18, I think.
Keith, you still available?
Yes, working on it.
Okay, thank you.
While he's putting it up there, when you're saying, I don't know, I didn't read all the info that was on there about the building itself. I don't know, I can't speak for the community, but we're not, that project is not asking for a building.
No.
No.
Okay.
upgrading,
Upgrading.
some
There should
renovation.
be well, they need renovation.
Keep going,
there
Kate.
now, that bathroom is just disgusting, but
There it is.
That's it.
Go back.
Back, that's
Yeah.
it.
Ms. Lowe, is it disgusting because of people abusing it, or is it, what's disgusting?
no,
about
it's
it?
disgusting because like he said, the building is old. There's been the same equipment in there since it was built. I know when it was built.
Mhm.
And
I know you do.
and the bath, the toilets, the containers with the soap and the tissue, all that stuff is disgusting. It is outdated, it's not working.
Well, maybe that's something, and excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt you, but maybe that's something we could look at if that is not the chosen
Sure.
thing. That seems like a small enough thing that maybe the
Yeah, but
city
that's
could handle
why,
anyway.
I was looking at some of the things that you was talking about up there. as far as upgrading, and we out there every day anyway. So a lot of that stuff is just, need to be, it's deteriorating the bathroom.
Right.
That, upgrade the bathroom, paint the buildings, you don't have to go through replacing doors and all this. We don't have any problem with some of this stuff in there, so the estimated amount there, it doesn't take that to go in there and kind of rehab that inside of that building.
So Ms. Lowe,
Ms.
if
Reese,
you-
go ahead.
so if you're saying, if this project is not selected, we may want to look at some of those areas that you're speaking of, some of the minor.
Yes, that
Changes.
they need to be done now, need to change. We don't need to sit back and wait a year or two to get some more money to come back out there and do some improvements inside the building.
We can evaluate that.
And again, having the Osborne Community Center completed is just, again, saying now Howard Park's complete, Jim's had a review, and now the Osborne's complete. Like, instead of having these incomplete 50% projects, it's nice to have one whole complete center, where we can take pride in. And the HVAC alone and the electrical is gonna help us with the cost, which again, that just goes back into more programs, which is nice.
Yeah, I was gonna say the bulk of the cost of this rebuild is item 1 and 2.
Yeah.
The cost for the mechanical pieces.
Well, if you give us some sledgehammers, I'm sure we can do the demo for you.
We could
Save some
charge
money right
people,
there.
we could charge people to come in like they used to do.
That's right.
They got
Oh,
the
smashed. them now,
sledgehammer.
right? They go in and smash stuff. Give us some sledgehammers and let us go.
Good question.
Is the center used a lot? Boston Center?
Yes.
Yeah.
Daily.
Heavily used.
And Memorial Park, we're agnostic to how you guys want to vote. But Memorial Park, our programs have outgrown it. The bathrooms only have, basically, it's used by one person at a time. So the programs have gotten really, really, larger, the participation levels. Anytime you got it during a home football game or soccer game or whatnot, it also needs help. We're dealing with just older, aging infrastructure, a lot of deferred maintenance, because as the mayor said earlier, when you don't have a lot of pennies, we have to be very strategic in where we spend those. So 275,000 sounds a lot, but in the grand scheme of fixing infrastructure, it's minor. And then there is an opportunity later in coming months to discuss ARPA, because ARPA does have an unrestricted pot within the 19 million where the commissioners have some flexibility in where to redirect, some investment. So, we try to get the most ROI, with
Return on
with each investment, right? So Osborne Center is used by the public immensely. Memorial Park gets used. Even these road improvements get used, obviously. When you think about the improvements in the downtown, don't think of it as just the merchant piece. It's about walkability. It's about improving and making the area safer. And again, those are things we've been talking about. I've been here 13 years. We've been talking about this for 13 years. So every time we get an opportunity, again, we have a long list of a 5-year capital program that just seems to be growing with me every year. And it is what it is, and we do the best we can systematically every budget, and everything gets taken into consideration. But getting the biggest ROI definitely is something that we look at.
Any other questions? Ready to vote?
All right, so when you guys come up, just again, ignore the proposed budget from 1, 2, 3. Just put your ticket in what bucket you feel like you would support. But as a reminder, there's going to be an item. What is it? The March 15th, Jerry?
March
March
1st.
1st commission meeting. It will be discussed at that meeting. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll tally this up. And we'll use this information to bring forward the project. And then at that meeting, we'll also list the other project options, and then they'll be able to make the ultimate decision. Okay?
So you're wanting us to vote already?
Yes.
Well, then I do have my own proposal, and I also have a question on number 3. Number 3 is between Lake and Lucerne and F and East Street. There are the arts loft that were funded by HUD money to the tune of $52 million. And my impression was that Lake and Lucerne is basically the tax base of the CRA. Please correct me.
Yes.
So they have money. So allow them to step forward and start fixing.
Good question.
Dan, would you like to hear mine? You can read it.
But what we can do while everyone has, you can place your items in the bucket if you also have some ideas. So what we do have,
Mine is 2 pages.
we do have a bucket here that says future project ideas. So we also want some thoughts from you if we have other projects in mind that we should be considering. Please feel free
Mine's
to
2 pages. So
insert it in the bucket.
I did, but I'm gonna.
No, no.
She's just
ma'am.
finishing her
I was-
sentence. Take a breath.
Anybody else,
Anna.
go ahead.
No, I was inviting others to also do the same as you're doing. So that's perfectly fine. Thank you.
And before you start, tonight's not your last opportunity to voice
That's
or
right.
provide your input. You guys know how to reach out, email us, and
Oh,
come knock on our doors and come talk to us.
Oh, yes.
I don't give up. I don't give up.
You can
It's
reach-
important.
Reach out to your district commissioner.
So,
Is that our resident doors or our city commission doors? Because we live here, remember?
oh, okay. My project does encompass a lot of money. It's not concrete, but it's up here. So what I'm proposing is that the city purchase a bus that's considered the library bus and used alternately by each and every district. District 1 gets the first weekend of transporting their children, District 3, and the third weekend, the fourth weekend, District 4. Every district will have use of this bus to take their children to the library, to activities, and to the swimming pool when it's ready. Alternate, okay, I've got the alternate activities or anything else the city puts together, okay? Plus, library has not been funded adequately. It is an underdeserved asset. It has not been funded for 2 years. The city took library endowment money till there's nothing left. So they're basically broke, okay? It is underdeserved. It is understaffed. There are no ESOL teachers there. There are not enough volunteers. In fact, there aren't any. Under the program, there's no weekend activities currently at our library. And I think you should all be concerned about that. There are no adult activities there, no reading clubs. All these could, and each one of these activities, every single weekend should be repeated for each and every district. So if District 1 gets this, this, and this at the library on this weekend, everybody subsequently gets the exact. So that does take staffing. And the bus needs to be insured, but it's owned by the city and has a driver, okay? Coding classes have never been mentioned. This is the up and coming, I'm not even computer literate, but I've heard about coding, and it's for the kids. They need to be brought up to par. No arts and crafts, reading challenge. Kids of all the districts will get a head start. Library is centrally located and is a safe environment for the littlest resident right there and for the elderly. And I'm probably the oldest one here, okay? So submitted, Anna Maria Windish Hunt, 404 South C Street. And it looks like it's not expensive, but when you start doing the little things that really, it is expensive. And we need this for our community. And like I said, It's not concrete, but it's here. And these kids are growing up in our community. They will be our future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your thoughts and your ideas. Sounds like a great program. And so I do want to make sure we understand, based on the requirements of CDBG grant requirements, those ideas would not fall under this category, but certainly these are ideas that we can. keep
Thank
in
you.
mind. Thank you.
We have to be cautious too of doing anything that's gonna require continued funding.
That's right.
Because this is only the one time.
That's right. This is one-time funding
We can't have a
and,
bus that we have to pay liability insurance on.
It's not a program.
right. And that's what I was just trying to remind you all, that the funds for the CDBG grant is not for programmatic type of activities. More so as you mentioned, the concrete, and you're fully aware that, infrastructure, facilities, and then with the exception of the code enforcement, those activities are allowable under the grant. Okay, let's vote. Everyone has their ticket and has placed it in the desired bucket. As mentioned earlier, this information will be tallied and be presented to the commissioners at the March 1st meeting. We'll then determine which project received the most votes, and the ultimate decision would be with the commissioners.
274. Yeah. 506. Full amount of the grant.
And then once the
It matches the
decision is
grant.
made by the commissioners, that information or that will go towards us applying for the grant and submitting that to the county for approval.
Dare I ask anybody who is on YouTube or who's listening in, if they could email their vote in?
Absolutely. So if you're listening by Zoom, YouTube,
You can email to the city manager directly?
that's right. And
No, seriously, I mean, we want you to handle that, so I mean, can you tell everybody your email
I
address?
sure will. Email it to Carmen Davis. My email address is cdavis, CDAVIS @lakeworthbeachfl.gov. So we welcome your comments by email. And if you'd like to give us a call, remind me of the right number, 586-1600.
Thank you all
You can
for
also
coming.
give us a call. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. We appreciate your input. And again, March 1st, we'll have a continued discussion with the commission.
I believe I have one more question, because you're smart.
Somewhere I look.
The price should be.
This is anywhere accurate. Did you vote?